In this video, we will show an example of the data visualization enhancements that we have made for Pivotal. So we will show a sample case scenario where this might be useful. So suppose that the user has requested that he wants a process that updates all the contact records, and he wants to update the state or all the address for the contact records for all those contacts that do not belong to the same address as the company. So for example, I can have a company that is based in Washington, but that company has some contacts that they have a different address. Okay, so the user has just requested a process that will update that. But he also wants to see some results of what the process is. So I have here an example. This is just a simple command that says update contact state. So when we run it, so we see that this is the result. So the process has changed 23 contacts from the state of New York to the state of VA. Also, this has changed 52 states from Washington to New York, and five states or 5 contacts have been updated to New Jersey, and so forth. Okay, so this does the trick, and the user gets a summary of what the process did, but you know, for visualization, it's not very good. So how can we improve this? So let's first see how are we doing this. So I have here the client task, and I have the server task. So on the client task is very simple. We just call a server task method called update contact state, and that will return us a string with the status. Okay, and we just check that the status is not null, and then we just display a message box with that status, and that is just what we saw here. Okay, this is the message box with the text. On the server side, what we have is this is the method update contact state. Okay, and I will not go through the details I have to do this on the database, but just we will focus on the format of the results. So I have an internal method here that does the trick, does the update on the database, and it will return us a data table with the information, with the process results. So this data table has the first column is it gives us the change that is made, and the second column gives us the quantity. So we get this table, and we just call a method called format table, and this format table just a string builder, and for each data row it just creates the string that we see here. Okay, so it's pretty simple, the visualization that we have right now. So how can we enhance this? So what we would like to do is provide some tabular results. Okay, so what we can do is, let's first change here and add a new method I have right here, and we will format the data table as HTML. Okay, so instead of doing this, we will call this method right here. Okay, and this method receives a data table as we had before, but we will use a component called HTML renderer. Okay, and this HTML renderer is just a library that I added as a reference to my server task project. The creation of the HTML renderer is very simple. We just provide the title. Okay, we can get this from the LD strings, so it is multilingual and stuff. But for this for this example, I just want to keep it simple. And we get a subtitle if we want, and then we just using a Fluid API, we just do a begin format table, and we pass the table that we got as a parameter. Okay, and then we get the HTML string for this HTML render. Okay, so let's compile this, and on the client side, I will just comment this. I don't want to display a dialog. What I want to display is a form. Okay, it's an HTML form, and this form is a simple form that has a browser embedded in it. Okay, this is the form definition. It's very simple, just a browser, and we pass some parameters. Okay, and the parameters that we pass is the HTML text and the title for the form, and then we just display it modally. So let's see how this changes what the user sees. Compiling this, I will just deploy it. Let me close this, otherwise. Okay, let me deploy this. All right. So let's open now the client and do the same process again. Okay, we go to accounts, maintenance, update content state. Wait, I haven't changed this. Okay. Let's try this again. Okay, now you can see that the results are presented differently. So this is HTML that is generated on the fly. Okay, so one thing that we need to keep in mind is that right now, if we want to do this with Pivotal, we need to put this in a data table. Put these results in a data table, and then maybe we can display a secondary with this information, or a search result list, etc. But we want to keep it simple. We don't want to create a new data table just for these results. So with this library, we don't need to do that. We just pass a data table, as you can see here, and using this HTML render, we create a format table. We call the format table method, and we display these tabular results. Okay. Another cool thing that we can do is we can along with the table, we can put a bar graph with the results. So let me compile this, shut down PBS, and do a deploy. Okay, let's repeat this. Okay, now you can see a bar graph, okay, that shows me the same information, but and this is interactive. Okay, I can hover over the bars and see what the information is. Okay, and if I don't want the bar graph, I can update instead and use a pie graph. Let's compile this, shut down. Let's test this again. Okay, so now you see the same results using a pie chart instead. So for the end user experience, I mean, it's much better to see this kind of results, or this kind of information graphically or tabular, than the one that we had before, which was gave us the same information, but visualization was not very good. And as you can see, it's very simple. We just need this HTML library, okay, which provides some methods to create the HTML on the fly. Okay, so the advantage of this is that we don't need to create data tables to visualize this. And this way we don't need to create, I mean, the customization gets is much easier, okay, and we don't need to create auxiliary tables and stuff. Okay, how we do this is pretty simple. We are using JavaScript. Okay, we are using jQuery and a library called Float to create the graphs. And we put this jQuery library on the website for the business server, and all we do from this, I mean, this form right here, remember it has a browser embedded. All we do is point to these libraries right here, and this is how we improve data visualization in Pivotal. So I hope you enjoyed the video.